All right, welcome. Today I have with me again Leslie the astrologer. And
Hello.
yes, and I recommend her for sessions. If you are interested, you can check the links below. But we
Thank
are going to
you.
be talking about the eclipse is coming up, and
Yes.
we're also going to look at Jupiter transitioning into Taurus, which will be interesting.
Yes. And we've got Mercury retrograde. Like this is all happening at the same time. So
Yeah.
this is a period of time from, we're already in Mercury's shadow. The first eclipse is Wednesday, 2 days from today that we're recording.
Hmm.
Mercury goes retrograde on Friday, the 21st. Then we have the second eclipse on May 5th. And then you said that you noticed what day was Pluto going retrograde?
I think May 2nd.
May
So
2nd.
so we're gonna get this first eclipse at 29 degrees
Yeah.
Aries, and then
So
Mercury
we'll
goes
just,
retrograde right after that. Man, that's
yeah.
fun. I
I
feel like
mean,
I'm
it's going to
already
be,
feeling that.
yeah. I mean, don't, I feel like everything has been happening so fast. Like it's already April. March zoomed by because there were so many changes in March. We had um, Saturn changing signs into Pisces. We had Pluto
Oh,
changing signs. We had the spring solstice, sorry, the spring equinox. And yeah, so it was a lot. And then we had a new moon, the first new moon. So this is like a blue moon, our first
mhm.
eclipse, which what are we looking at here? This is the second eclipse. So we want to
This
go,
is Pluto
oh,
retrograde.
that's Pluto
Let me go
retrograde.
back.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the eclipse.
Okay, so this is our first eclipse. It's at 29 degrees Aries. So we had a new moon in Aries on March 21st. And usually you get one new moon in a sign, right? A year. There's
Oh,
12 signs, there's 12 new moons. So when this happens, it's called a blue moon, an astrological blue moon. Blue moons are usually if you have two full moons in the same month. But in astrology, it's two full moons or new moons in the same sign. So this
mm.
is just kind of a little bit of an echo saying, don't forget the new stuff. Don't forget the Aries stuff. Don't forget to think about yourself, be your authentic self. But this is also sort of, you know, um, taking something old and making something new with it a little bit because Aries is new, 29 degrees is an ending degree. So
Mm.
it's sort of like we're having our preview of what the next 20 years is going to look like. And it's like we're just packing our bags and getting all of our stuff ready for the new trip. What are we going to need? What kind of tools are we going to need for the next 20 years? So this is a little bit of like, you don't want to get rid of things that still work for you, and you also have the opportunity to take the things that are old and still work for you and do something new with them. So it's not so much piling on um, more responsibility or bringing on, it's not, this is not the energy of abundance like it was back in the 90s when Pluto was in Sagittarius. It was
Mm.
all about abundance and expansion and growing. And this is a little bit more of, okay, you have a lot now. You have a lot of tools, you have a lot of knowledge, you've been through a lot, you know, let's take something that you've been working on since you were very young and do something new with it because it's a new era. And I don't know if we talked about this in the last one, but I was talking with some other astrologers about how Pluto in Capricorn is the destruction of the structures, so like those are the old ways of doing things. And Pluto and Aquarius is like those aren't working anymore. There's no more brick and mortar store, right? You're doing you're consulting and everything. We all do everything online or remotely. And even if you don't do it remotely, there's still this online presence that every business has now. They
Mm.
do a lot of their stuff on the internet. Like back when I first learned astrology, if somebody wanted a reading, they had to send me a check I had to wait for it to clear, and then we could talk on the phone.
Yeah.
So there's sort of like things going on now that you couldn't imagine even 10 years ago, that we can, even 5 years ago, before the pandemic, we weren't doing this much remotely.
Yeah.
So it is, taking something that is your thing, because Aries is you.
Yeah.
And the eclipse, I think, will uncover that. It will uncover where you need to take better care of yourself, where you need to be more independent in your life, where you need to, take care of yourself first, basically. Like that's what this is kind of telling us.
Nice. So
Yeah.
yeah, put yourself not above others, but start with yourself first. Like
Right, because you're no good to anybody else. If you want to,
yeah.
if you have the propensity to put yourself above others, you're going to let other people drag you down. You're not going to have the strength to help anybody or offer your gifts to the world if you are, if you're getting depleted by psychic vampires. So it's putting yourself and your self-care first, understanding where you shine, and
Mhm.
and then trying to find a way to shine there. But this is the, because it's an eclipse, you don't want to make any big changes during this time period. This is sort of a time to be open. You want to receive the information. We're not putting into action yet. There's just more information that we need to receive
Yeah.
during
So
the eclipse
don't make
period.
any huge major decisions. Like don't put all your money into crypto or something crazy.
Right.
uh,
Deal with things that are already going on. The eclipse is going to reveal to you what the next things are going to look like, but you're still sort of tying up, you want to clean your plate, you want to create a foundation for the new, your new era. So eclipse period, I just feel like it's a time to just be quiet and kind of sit and be ready to receive and just be open to, taking in the energy.
yeah. Yeah, with
Yep.
Pluto going into Aquarius and then all this Aries energy, I get the idea of like and Aquarius kind of being like the internet is like everybody can like have their own business sort of thing, or like everyone
Yeah.
has their own
Yeah.
brand now, and like you can literally have AI just write all your copy for you, and like everyone can have like really awesome looking brand for themselves and like have their own,
Right. It's like
consulting
we
or
get to be
business.
ourselves and do that for a living. That's
Yeah,
another thing. Like having two new moon, like a new moon in Aries, and then this is basically, it's in solar eclipse, but it's a new moon. The moon is eclipsing the sun.
yeah,
So it's still like it keeps pointing, you, be you. It's now your time to be you. I don't know if we mentioned that in the last one, like snowflake has become this sort of derogatory term, but it really is that. It's a whole bunch of people who are, every single one of us is different, but it's sort of, the snow blankets everything, and it's so calm and beautiful, and it's kind of that idea of a lot of little individual, everything looks so different, but all together it's sort of this, you know, this one big connection, like we're not really disconnected from each other. I mean, if you want to get real deep and woo woo about it, people will tell you, like, I'm you and you're me. And the people that we don't like if I don't like, I don't know, Putin or Donald Trump, or I don't like Joe Biden, I don't like Hillary Clinton. I hate to say it, but they're all part of all of us, and that's how we end up with those leaders, because we're not really being conscious about the fact that we're really not disconnected, and that's sort of what this area energy, it's being your own individual self, because that is the best way that you can offer your energy to the solar system and the universe.
yeah. I like to think the true sign of I could say kind of as a joke, the true spiritual awakening is if you can really love Donald Trump and Putin.
I know. You know what I have to say? I've been having a lot of I'm trying to have more compassion. And I know we talked about this earlier. I said in the United States, I feel like we have two political parties, divide and conquer. And I would like them
Yeah,
to change into unite and build.
right.
I've decided, any anger I used to have about politics or disagreements, I've sort of come to this conclusion. People are putting those disagreements in our brains because
Yeah.
divide and conquer is the best way to control the population. And
Yep.
every time I have a cognitive dissonance meltdown because somebody said something that I don't believe to be true, or I think it's dangerous to believe that, I'm starting to realize that's part of the problem too.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of I'm feeling very bad for people who have been, they were looking for a hero and they didn't get one because they don't really exist. And people did a lot of things thinking that they were being patriots and valiant, and now they're in big trouble. I'm not, I have to tell you, 6 months ago, I might not have been that compassionate, but I'm seeing things now from this Aquarius place where it's like, we are all in this together. And if we don't all figure out a way to unite and build, it's going to constantly be divide and conquer. So I hope that is something that everyone can take away from Pluto and Aquarius. Like, if we're fighting with each other and we're hating each other, there are people who are benefiting from that. And they would like to see that continue because it keeps us weak if we're not united, right?
I totally agree with
That's
that.
kind of the energy of Pluto.
What's the energy of Pluto? Oh,
That's,
coming.
yeah, it being in Aquarius. It's coming,
Yeah.
trying to come together, you know?
Yeah. And I've
Imagine,
seen that.
yeah.
I've seen that for a long time, probably because I'm an Aquarius sun. So I've been kind of
Yes.
waiting patiently. I'm like, all right, come on, humanity, figure out your
We're
stuff.
waiting for everybody else to see what you see. Because
Yeah,
Aquarius too,
like,
they're able to take their ego out of it.
mm,
It's hard.
yeah,
People are very emotionally, I admit it, get emotionally attached to what I believe to be true.
yeah,
And when somebody challenges that, then it upsets everything that you believe to be true. You have to start. I was so sure about that. Now I got to question everything that I thought I believed. So this is what Aquarius is doing to a lot of people. If you're open to it and you're like, you know what, I'm going to let go of all my preconceived notions and let the algorithm of the universe take me into its arms, it'll be a lot easier than if you're trying to fight and hold on to. It doesn't matter how long these institutions work. The medical healthcare field probably had its golden age in the 1970s to the 1990s. And
mm,
now, it's just, there's going to be some shifts of consciousness, and it's going to be a lot less painful if you are aware of that and accept that. And, tell yourself, hey, I really thought that grass was green and the sky was blue, and it turns out they're all purple. Like, what
yeah.
does it matter to your ego if what you thought was true is not true anymore? That's why Aquarius has to take the ego out, because as soon as our ego
Oh
gets
yeah.
in there, things get kind of weird. The people
Yeah,
want to
so Pluto's
control
gonna
each other.
transform. Pluto's gonna transform whatever set beliefs we used to have before, probably.
Yes, I
And
mean,
so, got to keep an
like you were
open
saying,
mind.
yeah, like you were saying
Stay
last
open.
time. Now NASA and the Department of Homeland Security, I think, are both saying there's a possibility that there's a mothership on the edge of the solar system and they're watching us. I mean, that sounds absolutely insane. But that would be like if a Native American said, I was at the shore the other day and there was a floating building. I think there are other, beings or tribes or humans across the ocean and they're watching us. And people would be like, are you nuts? They're watching us through their telescopes. And then the next thing you know, they've taken over. So, this is like, I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but that's how crazy Pluto and Aquarius energy is. It shifts your consciousness together. So this is why we really need to be strong about who we are and what our gifts are right now. And the universe really wants us to be like, this is your gift. And I want you to use it as your contribution
Okay.
to make the world a more unite and build type of place.
Yeah, together and to be of service to others as well. I
It's
guess.
altruism. It's less about service and more about, hey, I don't understand that person's problem and I never had that problem before, but if they have that problem, I want to respect that, they might need some solutions. That's that's kind of altruism.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's sort of this acceptance of
Accepting
differences.
each individuals for whatever they're
Yeah,
going through, and not seeing them as less than you, but everyone's on this, everyone's equal.
right. Well,
And
everyone deserves, an equal shot at happiness and freedom.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and
That's well
has the United States lived up to that for everyone? For everyone, and that's the thing. The old they loka samasta tsukino bhavantu, the chant that may all beings be happy and free, all
Oh,
beings. Because if all, if some one person is miserable, it's contagious. So,
yeah.
we're only as good as our most vulnerable on the planet.
Mm,
So
yeah.
that's Aquarius. But the Aries part is what is my contribution to that bigger society?
Well,
What's my
one
contribution?
part of Pluto going into Aquarius, because I've been studying a lot of the financial markets and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been some talk about universal basic income coming out.
Yeah,
So that everyone can it's kind of that's pretty Aquarian, right?
that's very Aquarian
Yeah, yeah,
because there's no ego in it. You know, it's
yeah.
more of this thought that, what, I don't want to have to deal with people living on, I don't want, even if it's selfish, even it's like, I don't want to step over homeless people. Let me just give these people some money so that I don't have to see them. Like that's the low form of it. Like, let's
Yeah,
just, the
there's
high
definitely
form
that too.
of, right. That's the low form of it. But the high form of it is, what the truth. And that's, an example. Not everyone's going to be happy and free until everyone's happy and free. So you're a millionaire and you're living in this gorgeous mansion, but you're surrounded by squalor,
Mhm.
right? That's the whole, that's, the selfish side of it is the guy going, I don't want to live in squalor. I'll just give these people money so I don't have to look at it. But then the altruistic part is actually believing, like,
Mhm.
it really is just better and easier if everyone has enough to take care of themselves, because crime goes up when people get desperate, you know?
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's start to move on here. So,
Yeah.
this is our
So
last
then the
chance
next one is,
to sign any contracts because we're coming into Mercury retrograde here.
yeah, I would even say put off signing contracts even from today.
I feel,
It's
yeah.
already in its shadow. And we also know that Mercury is going retrograde at around 15 degrees
So
Taurus.
what do you mean shadow? How is it in?
Shadow means like, okay, so Mercury's at 15 degrees, right? When it goes retrograde, it's going to be at 15 degrees.
Yeah. Oh, so it's
So
already there.
it's going backwards all the way to 5 degrees, I believe.
Yeah, okay.
So when Mercury actually hit 5 degrees last week, that was officially it going into its shadow, because it's
Oh,
going into a place where it's going to be coming back
retrograde back
to.
to, yeah.
So it's going to pass over that, it passes it once, then twice, and then a third time when it goes direct again. And so we're not going to be out of the shadow until Mercury gets to 16 degrees Taurus.
And that's around June 2nd.
Yep. Yeah, June 1st, I believe, is when it's
So
officially
whatever
out.
whatever we've been doing the past month or so, we'll have a lot of time to reflect on that basically.
Yeah, everything like it's really about what started on March 21st. That was a new moon in Aries. And then and a few days later, Pluto went into Aquarius. Saturn was already, so we're already, that was like sort of the set off of this new energy. It's completely different from what we've been dealing with last year
Mm.
and the year before. Um, so yeah, it's more like I'm like losing my train of thought here. What were we talking about?
Mercury retrograde is
Yeah,
coming in.
see, that's Mercury retrograde, guys. Jack and I, before we got on this call, were saying how exhausted we feel. And I really think it's because of, we're already in this sort of energetic storm, like we're at the doorway of
I
it
can
all.
feel it. I can feel it very strongly right now.
Yeah. So, yeah, Mercury is going to go retrograde at the same place it was on November 8th. I'm sorry,
Mm.
the same place that the eclipse on November 8th was. And I remember you and I talking about how weird it was. There were trees falling down in San Jose area. Yeah, I remember you talking about like trees getting ripped out of the ground or something. And
That was in
there was,
December. Yeah.
oh, was that December? Okay, there was an incident in November where an asteroid or something fell out of the sky and hit this guy's barn. And it was like his barn was like the only building, on this huge, huge piece of property at a cow farm. It hit his barn. Like that's a bullseye, you
Damn.
know? Like that's so weird. So anyway, there is this Mercury retrograde is also asking us go, what there was probably a crisis, some kind of, whether it was a big crisis or a little crisis in your life. Maybe it was just, an internal crisis. There wasn't really something going on outside, but this eclipse is sort of opening up. What have you been doing since that crisis? Like you had to do something to try to overcome it. What path are you on to get away from, like, how are you transforming from this crisis that you might have been in November? Mercury is going to kind of go retrograde, and we're going to reevaluate, what is it because I didn't prioritize my values? That's another thing that the energy around this eclipse is
And
asking.
also, did you learn the lesson from what happened back then?
Right.
And are you applying that into your life?
Right. Are the changes you're making in your life, are they relevant to that incident, that challenge that was going on last fall?
Yeah, and actually last November 8th, I was looking at the astrology and I was like, is there going to be like a major like crypto crash? And I was like, it really looks like there is. And
And
then
that's what
literally
happened,
like
right?
right on the moment of the eclipse, like the FTX collapse like happened.
Right. So it could
So
be
crazy.
one of the things that might happen during this period from, Friday, actually really Wednesday until June 1st, is there could be
Oh,
putting different regulations around money, around crypto. I mean, I really think they need to implement something similar to Glass-Steagall, which was, when your people are making big investments like a mortgage, you can only do that with an FDIC insured bank. And the whole purpose of an FDIC insured bank for a mortgage or something is so that when there's a pandemic, that the government can make sure that people stay in their homes. The government has federally insured the bank, but in 1999 they undid Glass-Steagall. So pretty much you and I could open up our own loan shark mortgage company for free if we wanted to. And that reminds me, Jack found that there was an eclipse on April 19th, 2004 at
yeah,
29 Aries.
yeah,
And really, that was probably the last year. Like things really started to fall apart after that. We had, Hurricane Katrina. There was that really bad tsunami. And then we had the first of the real estate crashes. In
yeah,
California, it hit us a little early in 2006. But it's interesting because that is, you know, Aries can be violent, it could be upsetting. It can be similar to Scorpio energy in that it destroys things sometimes. So
yeah. Huh.
so there's a little bit of coming around, like, what's going on, what's going to happen on the eclipse that might mimic or bring to our attention, how are we treating the environment that we're living in too? Because I remember
Yeah.
saying like
And
this could be like kind of weather patterns, because it's the last day of the first third of spring. So Aries is like the beginning of spring, Taurus is the middle of spring, and Gemini is the end of spring, and it's getting ready to change into summer. But with
mm,
Aries being, the beginning of spring, it could be shifts in like what's spring going to look like. Are we going to have a lot of floods now? Went from drought to flood.
yeah. Huh. And our people are going to get angry about, and are they going to get fed up with, I don't
Yeah.
know, the structures of society or something? Or
Right. Like there may have been back in '04, you know, people were really, really starting to get disillusioned with our election system. You know, this is now the first, 2004 was, we're coming on the first election after 2000, which was really a mess. You
yeah,
know, there was way too much influence with, you know, the news and the TV and everything. And so that was sort of like, you know, I remember '04 being very weird when it was time to vote. Like feeling like, oh my God, what is going on? Like it was almost the beginning of like what I'm feeling now in this country. It was like really, really
mm,
intense back
yeah,
then. You know, it concerns me because it could be the energy of revolution.
yeah,
And, you know, we know that Pluto in Aquarius is revolution. So we could be looking at civil wars or, you know, rebel groups and, you know, um, people just wanting to take things into their own hands.
mm,
There's a lot of that. And some of that's good. Like I'm finding, look, with healthcare, especially the younger kids, you know, they're not playing into the way the system is because they already know it works against them. They're joining medical collectives and things like that where they don't have to rely on the insurance.
wow, good, very good
Yeah.
to hear that. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
So Mercury retrograde, we're going to go back a little bit, you know, evaluate everything that you did and everything you should be proud of yourself for doing since November 8th.
yeah,
What have you done to crawl out of that hole?
wow.
So
So
then,
this is really interesting. Right when right after Mercury retrograde on May 14th, and then Mercury goes direct, and then on May 17th, then Jupiter goes into Taurus.
yes, and that's lovely.
Lovely.
I'm really hoping that that manifests in, you know, because Taurus is creature comfort and Jupiter's abundance. So that could be like an abundance of creature comfort for everybody, you know. That could be, you know, people kind of turning around and being like, you know, here's the big picture of what's truly important because Taurus is values. You know, what we value, it affects our money making abilities.
Hmm.
What you got
Wow.
going on the upside there?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Actually, this just reminded me. I mean, look at all this Taurus energy. Um,
Yeah. And
I
it's
talked
kind of,
to I
look
talked
at
to
the sun.
another I talked to another astrologer colleague, and he said this reminded him. I think he said of the dot-com collapse. Actually,
Oh,
all this
well,
Taurus.
people are going to lose their, yeah, this does look like a little bit of a stock market crash. And the reason why is really because where the sun is at 26 Taurus,
Yeah.
that's Kappa Algol, that fixed star that is
Oh my
alcohol is
gosh.
named after. You know,
Yeah.
the whole thing with alcohol, it's spirits, right? It's like a possession.
Oh my
So this
God.
is people losing their minds over money, like
Whoa.
hanging themselves over money, choking people to death over money,
Take it
screaming and
easy.
hollering and yelling over money. Yeah, absolutely losing your head over
Whoa.
money.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, and that
Okay.
is actually where Donald Trump's midheaven, his, there's all this going on here with the him being indicted and everything. You know, something could happen with that, but it also, and those things, like it really is. It's like the algorithm of life on Earth. One thing happens, and everyone reacts to it, right? So if somebody who's in the public eye has a meltdown, that everyone else is going to have a sort of reaction, their own personal reaction to that. They'll think it's funny, they'll think it's awful, you know, they might sell all their stocks because they're scared, or maybe they go and buy a bunch of stocks. But it's something, when something happens to a public figure or in the public realm, everyone has their own individual sort of reaction to that. So it'd be interesting to see, when Jupiter goes into Taurus, there's sort of, I feel like it has to be a shift in how we're dealing with values, because it just seems, we've put so much value on physical money, and everyone's at this point where they're like, even, it's gone to the point where there are too many people who are private citizens who are basically pulling all the strings because they have more money than the government. Or they have so much money that even if they're punished, it doesn't make a difference, and that's why all of us little guys they got all us little guys at each other's throats and hating each other. Because if we all united and took out the three people that are basically running the planet, that'd be the end of that.
It'd be done. That's all we have to do. Yeah. All we have to do is come together.
That's why as hard as it is, and as crazy as some of the things that your friends might be saying, you got to let it go. We should not be fighting with each other anymore, because it doesn't even matter. Like the big picture is there are a handful of people with a lot of money, and they don't give a crap about us. They will hurt anybody to keep their status. So so this is the energy that we're really dealing with astrologically, is getting our own inner strength and figuring out, but also coming together as unique individuals to do something altruistic. That is the absolute best way we could make this happen. So now what are we looking at?
I'm looking at
this had to be
2000. So it's kind of similar with all
that.
Yeah,
there was there was an eclipse back. There was some eclipses back in 1999, and that is when Glass-Steagall was basically 86th. It happened. There was a Grand Cross. It was like July 28th and August 11th, I think, is when these happened, of 1999. And that's when our financial system started to transform, and not necessarily for the better. Everyone had a lot of fun initially, because it's like somebody opened up the savings account and let everyone play with their money, but then there was none going back in. You know what I mean? So we're looking at, that's May 17th, 2000.
Yeah, so let me
so let's check out the new moon, or the other eclipse, which is May 5th.
Okay. And I just checked out on the financial market. So this later this year, it took another like 6 to 9 months until the stock market really crashed.
Right. And this was the last time that Jupiter was in Taurus, I think. Well, no. It was in Taurus 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Never mind. Sorry.
All right.
I take that. I'm thinking of Saturn. Saturn takes 30 years. I was having my Saturn return in 1999. So, all right. So here's the lunar full moon eclipse.
Yeah.
And as you can see, 14 degrees and 58 minutes. So that's almost 15 degrees. And so that is happening right on the, again, that was where the eclipse last year was.
Wow.
Last fall.
That was the FTX collapse. Yeah.
Right. So now it's the other way around, right? The moon was in Taurus and the sun was in Scorpio when that happened. Now the sun is in Scorpio and the moon is in Taurus. So we're looking at it from the other angle. How can we make this work?
How can we learn the lessons from 6 months ago?
Right. So this doesn't happen again. Who's the shady person that we need to, or the shady elements that need to go away? Also, like the North and South Node are squaring Pluto.
I know. That's
so. Remember the last eclipse? I said the way out of the opposition, because the sun and the moon are trying to find some kind of balance. They're both really stubborn. One is about other people's values, what's important to everyone else, and Taurus is about what's important to me and my tribe,
Yeah.
and then Aquarius is like, you got to detach from all that and be altruistic. The way out is always where the point of the square, that's where the universe wants you to work out and find the balance. So in this case, it's not happening in Leo, it's happening in Aquarius. So if somebody's being too passionate or too stubborn or too greedy or too superficial, or even if they're being too dark and too dramatic and, just, the sky is falling, Aquarius is the energy that goes, okay, hold on, step back. Let's look at this like we're watching a movie. Let's take ourselves out of the situation and look at this like I'm just watching it on a screen. That's what Pluto in Aquarius does. It wants to detach from everything, doesn't care about your individual needs or your individual ego. It just wants to do what is right for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of my highest values as an Aquarius sun. What
Yeah,
can we do
yeah,
for the benefit of everyone? Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
And in order to do that, we have to really detach. I mean, one of the downfalls of Aquarian energy, it is a fixed sign.
Yeah.
So once they do learn something, sometimes they get so like my friend used to call it closed-minded about open-minded things, or open-minded about closed-minded things. I can't remember, but it's like, they're very open-minded about what they believe in, but if their version of science or their version of technology or their version of truth hasn't been able to explain something else, they throw that away. Like with the case with astronomers and astrology. Once we started understanding the laws of physics and astronomy differently, the scientists just considered all of this energy as superstitious. So Pluto being in Aquarius, it gives us an opportunity to go, okay, do you want to, replant those seeds? Take another look at the things that we threw away as a society 250
Mm.
years ago. Like
Oh,
we kind of,
wow.
what I'm saying? Like they still
Yeah.
kind of believed in and then they were right around that time, the 1700s, they started saying it was sacrilegious and it was superstitious and it had nothing to do. And I believe it was Kepler was the one who said, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There might be something here too, and I think one of the reasons why Gen Z and millennials are embracing astrology is because they understand algorithms. They understand computer algorithms, and they understand how computer algorithms can predict things. So in a way, when you're looking at your chart and comparing it to what's going on in the sky, you're hacking your own algorithm, or we're hacking the algorithm of behavior on the planet Earth.
Mm. So here's Bitcoin. Here's what's happening with Bitcoin on the
Okay.
lunar eclipse.
On which day is that? Which eclipse? Is that
This is the lunar
the
one on May 6th. So it's hitting the 10th house, or the sun is in the 10th house.
yeah.
Opposite.
Taurus is the money that is in your pocket, and Scorpio is money that other people have. Taurus is what you think is important. Scorpio is what other people think is important. So that's why it's trying to find a balance when they're opposing each other. My stuff versus your stuff. I
So
have
maybe
taste. You're
maybe it's a good
gaudy.
time. Maybe it's a good time for people to put Bitcoin in their cold storage wallets. They could take it off the exchange and put it in their. It's like putting it in your own wallet.
I
Separate
gotcha. Like
from.
taking money, like withdrawing it from the bank and putting it in your wallet.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it's
it's
like
not
that.
in the bank. Yeah. So, but it's still, I think what it is going to do is going to uncover certain things, certain behaviors around Bitcoin, so that you guys are going to know how to better regulate it and manage it, so it's not
Yeah.
abused. Because I think that's the whole point. Venus in Pisces is very intangible, but it's very forgiving and it's unconditional love, which is kind of a difficult concept to mix with money in the modern world,
Mm.
because capitalism and profiteering and things does not really give a shit about individual well-being, right? It's like you're just making a profit at any cost. And Venus in Pisces wants to give the money away to everyone and doesn't care what it costs, because Venus doesn't even believe in physical money. Venus in Pisces believes in unconditional love for everyone. It's more like Burning Man, where nobody's making any money. They just make the art for art's sake. And it's out there, and they're spending all this money. No one asked them to make that. You want to make a car that looks like a cupcake with a teddy bear coming out of it. That's Venus in Pisces. It's art for art's sake, love for love's sake. The most forgiving kind of love, the kind of love that we're supposed to be getting from an omniscient, compassionate God. But it's kind of hard to, how does that manifest as money?
It's tough to wrap your mind around that.
Yeah. With Saturn in Pisces going, has already passed over that. It does seem like there's going to be a structuring, some kind of structure, something so that it works in the real world. You know what I mean? Like, it's still sort of out there in the ether, and maybe businesses like dispensaries, like in states where cannabis is legal, a lot of times they're using crypto. Any kind of business that's like that's sort of new, or gaming. But as far as out in the rest of the world, like going grocery shopping, it's still not quite considered like a real thing, but I think that's going to change while in the next 2.5 years, while Saturn is in Pisces.
Yeah. So then look at all this energy stacked in the 10th house here of Bitcoin. And then Jupiter will go in there, and then the sun's still there, but then the sun goes over Algol basically.
Yeah, the sun is on Algol.
Yeah.
When it's 25 to 27 degrees is Algol.
Yeah.
And I think people might lose their minds over money. What might happen is, I think the market may open up to people who it wasn't available to before, like the little guy. I think it's the big guys that are going to be losing their mind, because in order for the rest of us to make money, those guys have to open up their purse string. They need to stop having their money get moldy in a Cayman Island bank account while people are living on the street. You know what I mean? Like, the money is it if you think about it, it's always there. It just changes where it is. Like, sometimes all the money's over here. So if you're in that industry, you get to be part of that money. Sometimes the money's over here. And if you're part of that industry, you get the money. The people who were making horse buggy whips during the days when the automobiles started coming out, the money wasn't going over there to them anymore. It moved over to the automobile makers. So the saddle makers and the bridle makers and the buggy whips makers, who were millionaires, started losing all their money. Yeah. So I kind of feel like it might be a thing like that, where the big guys who've always held the money, the old money, that things now start to change. Well, I mean, I've seen it happen with the millennials already. None of the millennials are working. Well, they're working. They just won't work for the old Capricorn guys.
Yeah.
They have YouTube channels, and they make $1 million on a YouTube channel. And then these crusty old men are complaining, none of these kids want to work. I'm like, no, they're working. They just don't want to work for you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that energy of, the big guys, the little guys have a chance to grab something.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm wondering if the regulations around crypto might just start benefiting the little guy.
Whoa, that would be a twist.
That would be cool.
That would be very cool. All right, well, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
Because there's another astrologer, and let's see, and also just in the news, there's all this stuff about the central bank digital currencies coming out. Biden said probably in July they might try to bring out these central bank digital currencies, which is kind of like the old, I don't know, it seems like the old Capricorn guys are trying to come out with their own like
Right. And and
Bitcoin.
in July, pull up a chart for July. I think
Yeah, it's
Capricorn
very interesting.
is Pluto back in Capricorn in July?
Let me switch it here. So here's July 4th. Yep.
Yep. See, look.
Capricorn. There it
Yep.
is.
So this is the solar return for the United States because it's July 4th, you said.
Yeah, I'll go
Pluto
back.
is back in Capricorn. So yeah, the
Wow.
old establishment is going to try to get their fingers on things again, but
Yeah.
it's done. Like honestly, this is it's like that one last,
Yeah.
when the victim of the killer is going for the knife, but he comes and slams him down anyway. Like that's that's what this is. It's almost like Pluto going, this is what we're getting rid of. We're not doing this anymore.
Oh my
If
God.
if you don't believe me, I'm going to show it to you one more time, and then you're going to agree with me that this needs to go.
I think the
Like,
people just aren't gonna, I think they're gonna see through it. They're just gonna be like,
yeah.
no, this is so obvious now that we don't want to do this. Like, I think the people are gonna
But
be like,
yeah, if
oh
there's
my,
one thing I want people to see is how much we have been manipulated over the last 3 years to hate each other's guts.
exactly.
That
Yeah.
that things have been manipulated. If you're pissed off about drag queens, or if you're pissed off about, like, these are all manufactured things to make us distracted from the fact that the old dudes want to take over the new money.
Yeah.
They would love to get rid of the libraries. They would love to get rid of schools altogether. That's why they create all this chaos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what they want to give guns to teachers now. People did not become teachers to shoot guns. I mean,
Oh
if the
my God.
security guards in the school didn't work, the teachers aren't going to work either, holding guns, if your security guards couldn't. So that it's all of that sort of energy of, this crap is not working anymore, and we need to do everything over. And I kind of feel like all those violent situations are created to keep us hating each other.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree.
Yep.
Sounds like you've changed your mind on some of these things, or you've come more aware of something.
Oh no, I've been feeling that way for a while.
Okay.
I do, but no, and I think some of it is just even talking to you and talking to a lot of people that I feel like we're spiritually aligned with each other. Why do we have disagreements about crap that's going on Earth? And it's like, because people on Earth are making it that way. That is a recent sort of,
Yeah.
eureka moment I've had, because it got weird. And that's probably what happened. Like, it really kind of started in November, where, I had some people have meltdowns on me because I said something about the vaccine that was cognitive dissonance, or somebody said something about a Democrat to me that was cognitive dissonance. And that's when, and I say something to someone about a Republican, and it's, we're all having meltdowns and like don't want to talk to each other. And then I realized, like, wait a second here. This is sort of, for me, this is how these eclipses, if we're going back to November, because that was the last election we had in this country. So, that I feel like for me, that's sort of what's been going on with, when Neptune and Mars, when Mars was in Gemini and Neptune was squaring it, everything was so confusing. And
Yeah.
so it's not that I believe anything new. I've just decided that I really don't know what's going on. And there are people making sure that none of us really know what's going on purpose, because if
Yeah.
we keep fighting, they keep the power.
Exactly.
So if I can leave anyone with anything with Pluto in Aquarius, really just wants us to come together, to not to become a homogenized, but thinking of every blade of grass or every grain of sand, how different they are. But when they're all together, right, it's like this beautiful singular structure, like a beautiful field of wildflowers, or the stars in the sky. They're not the same. Or snowflakes. And I hate that snowflake is like an insult now, but every single snowflake is so different. But how beautiful does it look when they all work together and they're just coating the countryside? So that's what we want to be, like like little stars, like wildflowers, like snowflakes.